All right.
Great. Thanks, Rob. I think we should go ahead and get started. I think we'll probably have a few other folks join us as we get going. I want to start by introducing myself. My name's John Hendricks, and I am Director of Science Communication at the Paleontological Research Institution. So we're located in Ithaca, New York. We're an organization dedicated to the science of paleontology. Over time, we've sort of expanded our programs. We've built a museum. For a long time, we're known for sort of, housing fossil collections and publishing a scientific journal about fossils. But over time, we've really, started expanding our public programming. And one of the things we're really involved in nowadays is developing web content to help folks learn about the earth, learn about the places where they live and, the rocks and fossils around them. And so what we want to do here this evening is to share with all of you a new resource that we've developed at the Paleontological Research Institution, or PRI, called Earth at Home. And Earth at Home is, you can sort of think about it as sort of one-stop shopping for earth science resources. And it's completely free and open. You don't have to register to use it. You can use Earth at Home really however you wish. Most of the resources on Earth at Home have Creative Commons licensing, so you can incorporate them. If you teach, for example, you can incorporate them into your classrooms however you like. So that's who I am. Again, my name is John Hendricks, and I want to pass it to Liz Hermsen next. Liz, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Liz Hermsen. I am a research scientist at the Paleontological Research Institution. My research is on fossil plants. So right now I'm mainly working on Pliocene material. It's about 4.5 million years old from Tennessee, but I have worked on material from other places like Argentina. A few years ago, did one paper on the American West. So, and I've also been working on putting content onto Earth at Home. So some of the content I'll be showing you today is stuff that I put on the website. And I guess I can pass it on to Rob.
Hi, folks. I'm Rob Ross, Associate Director for Outreach at Paleontological Research Institution. I have met at least a couple of you, and some of you may know Don Haas, who would normally be here, but is taking the evening off for some other things. So he sends his well wishes. So I've been involved working with sort of behind the scenes on some of this stuff for a long time. And I will pass it off to Araya.
Thanks, Rob. Hi, everyone. My name is Araya Maraka, and I'm the Integrated Marketing Manager at PRI. And I'll be talking to you guys later about a fun thing we have going on the Earth at Home website. It's a science road trip, and I'll talk more about that later.
Great. Thanks, Araya, Liz, and Rob. What we'd like to do now is to find out who you guys are. In part, that's to help tailor our presentation tonight. If we'd like to know, are you here as a teacher? Are you here as somebody who's just, sort of generally interested in earth science? Because knowing that will help us to kind of tailor what we want to show you on the Earth at Home website. And I think what we'll do here, if y'all don't mind, is I'll just kind of look on my Zoom screen and say your first name, and then if you might just unmute for a second and just tell us who you are and where you live and maybe why you decided to participate in this workshop. That'd be great. So I want to start with Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Nielsen. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I teach in the Tanque Verde School District, and I recently became the STEAM specialist at my school serving K-6 students, and I joined this I joined this session to help learn more about communicating and teaching the earth science to a range of learners.
That's awesome. Thank you. Danelle?
Hi, I'm Danelle Horan, director of the Amazing project in Tucson, Arizona, and we do professional development for teachers from pre-K to high school. And so we're always looking for, especially place-based, very specific things that we can do for here. So I really appreciate that it's for us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm.
We have two
Are there two of
Jennifers.
us?
Let's go
Here,
with
let the
Jennifer
other one go
K.
first.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do Jennifer K first. Sorry about that. I was looking at the names and I missed that.
I didn't notice it either. I'm Jen Kelly. I live in Park City, Utah. I am an endurance bicyclist and a fledgling photographer looking to tell conservation stories through my bike trips. So I've been studying the natural world, mainly the living natural world, but I'm interested in the earth science and the geological history of my home area now.
That's awesome. That's the place. Park City is where I did my geology field camp as an undergraduate. So I spent 6 weeks at the Chateau April. So I've been to Park City. Thank you. Kathy, if you're there.
Hi, my name is Kathy Bauman. I am an informal educator. I run my own programs called Educating Children Outdoors. I actually teach in Tucson, Casa Grande, and Phoenix. And we actually are doing fossils and geology as our themes in the fall. So I was just looking for some resources and somebody recommended them.
That's great. Thank you. Troy.
Hi, I'm Troy, actually staying muted because I'm on my cell phone, but I am a teacher also. I teach special ed in middle school, but I was just actually interested for myself, interested in earth science.
That's great. Thanks
and
for being
I'm
here.
connecting from Colorado.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Ingerborg.
Hi, I'm basically a local person and I teach Science Olympiad and I'm in the local Rock and Mineral Club. So I'm asked to present programs to a lot of schools, scouts and what have you. I'm retired, so I have the time to do it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Okay, Jennifer N.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Necris. I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm an 8th grade science teacher and I've taught, it's physical science, but I have my kids for 2 class periods a day, so I get to throw in other stuff. And my background is astronomy and my husband's background is geology, so we throw in the astronomy and the geology. And I'm always looking for Southwest geology stuff. I did my PhD at Arizona State University, so very familiar with the Southwest geology and always looking to learn more.
That's great. Thank you. William. If you're there.
He typed in the chat. You see it?
Got it.
I see.
We see you there, William, in the chat. Thank you very much.
Keep not unmuting.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Phyllis. Are you there, Phyllis? Okay, let's go to Andrew.
Hey, I live in Tucson and I just love rocks and geology. I just want to learn.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Somebody has called in with the number 126 beginning 1267. I don't see your name, but if you'd like to hop on and say hi, that'd be great.
Hi, that's me. I'm Katie. Yeah, I'm having trouble with Zoom, but I should be on soon. I live in Colorado and I'm a homeschooling mom, and I also work with some other homeschooling families. My background is in environmental science and economic modeling for climate models, but because I'm homeschooling and because we're always doing road trips in the area, I always want to know more about the geology so I can share with my kids and other kids. So I'm really interested. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Then one more person recently joined the call, Nepper. And if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourself, we just want to know, where you're zooming in from and what brought you to the workshop tonight. Okay. If you want to add that info later, or you want to say anything more as way of introduction, please add it to the chat. So, like I said at the beginning here, we're here tonight to sort of do two things. We want to introduce you to the Earth at Home website that we've developed at PRI and some of the resources on there, and then focus in on content especially tailored to the Southwestern United States. And one of the things I want to say at the start here is to please feel free to, I'm going to go through certain parts of the website, but please do feel free to explore on your own if you wish. And there's going to be opportunity at the end for you to highlight something that you found on the Earth at Home website that you think would be useful to yourself for whatever reason, and that you'd like to share with the group. So please do just explore around as we're talking. What we'll do is we go through different web pages on the Earth at Home website. We'll add them to the chat so you can jump in whenever you want and see what we're talking about. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Can I get a thumbs up from somebody if you can see my screen? Great. Okay. So this is the Earth at Home screen. So if you go to Earth at Home, this is what it should look like at the top. All of the resources that I'm going to share with you and my colleagues here are going to share with you can be accessed from the menu bar at the top of every single page on Earth at Home. So if you get lost, it should be hopefully pretty easy for you to find your way back. We're going to focus some time this evening under regional guides focused on the Southwestern US. But before we jump into that, I want to highlight, some of these other parts of the Earth at Home website, just so you know that they're there. We'll focus in on just a couple pages in this part of the website, so you kind of know that the resources are there if you want to dig in a little bit more detail on your own. But we'll come back to regional guides. Some of these same major parts of the Earth at Home website are also highlighted as you scroll down on the home page. So we've highlighted major blocks of content that are brand new that we've recently added. And then again, these major components of the website can also be located just by scrolling down on the page. So I'm going to go back up. I know it's sort of jarring if somebody scrolls too fast. I'll try to avoid that. The first part of Earth at Home that I'll mention is the digital encyclopedia. So the digital encyclopedia is the way to think about it is that this is an open access geology textbook, essentially. So it's basically a free online textbook. It's under development. We already have some really well-developed, rich content in the digital encyclopedia, and then other parts are sort of just at an introductory level still. We're still working on them. We think that this is going to be a part of the website that will be under development for years to come, but there is already quite a bit of solid content on there. So we have introductions to topics like Earth system science, sort of big ideas related to Earth system science. We have a chapter on minerals that's already pretty rich in content, sort of basic level chemistry for understanding minerals. And then the classifications of the two major groups of minerals, which are known as silicate minerals and non-silicate minerals. And then we have, basic introductions to topics like rocks and plate tectonics and earth hazards. We also have some fairly detailed information about geologic time and Earth history. We have a lot of content on our partner website called the Digital Encyclopedia of Ancient Life that sort of considers geologic time in terms of its vastness. It's got, for those of you who teach about geologic time, it's got some ways for students to think about sort of conceptualizing, what is a million years ago? What is a billion years ago? What does that all mean? The Earth at Home website has its own geologic timescale with important Earth and life history events assigned to each of the major geologic periods. We're also developing geologic maps. I'll come back to that in a second. A minute ago, I mentioned the Digital Encyclopedia of Ancient Life. This was another project that we're still working on at PRI, but most of our effort on it took place a few years ago. This is a really pretty robust introductory online textbook to paleontology. So we've got coverage of a lot of major fossil groups. We've got background information about, how do fossils form? We've got a lot of rich content related to evolution, and especially evolution in the fossil record. We've got information about systematics, which is the study of, how biologists name species and figure out their relationships. And then we've got information about, paleoecology and conservation paleobiology. That is, using the fossil record to understand how to, best conserve modern day species. And then we've got a lot of content also related to climate change, and energy, which obviously is a super important topic today. So some of this content is derived from a book that we published at PRI a few years ago called The Teacher-Friendly Guide to Climate Change. So a lot of that information in that book is now being ported over to the Earth at Home website. And so, again, feel free to, click on these pages and explore as you want. One of the most recent pages that we added to the digital encyclopedia is a chapter on climate change mitigation. So what can people do? What can governments do, and what have you, to help mitigate some of the consequences of climate change? So that's the digital encyclopedia. I'm now going to move over to virtual science, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it to Rob, who's going to talk about virtual fieldwork experiences and our catalog of virtual fieldwork resources. So I'm going to stop sharing here, Rob, and I'll let you jump on.
Okay. Take me just a second to get there. So as you know from John, we're here at Earth at Home. And if you click on virtual science, you'll see these tabs here. These eventually may change, but right now, if you click on virtual fieldwork, this will take you to some general background on how to basically take the field site into the classroom, or but one can think about it in both directions. So when we first began planning for virtual fieldwork experiences, we were thinking about how do we best replicate what it's like to go into the field and look at rocks and fossils and do something that's active. And that's why we call it, in our version of it, field work instead of just a virtual field trip, which is sort of the original title of this sort of thing. But the idea is the same, that you're taking students sort of to a place that you can't get to physically. Now, of course, ideally, students actually will get into the field. But so this isn't a replacement for the real world, of course, but it's just an opportunity to do something either in places that students can't otherwise get to, or maybe even a place that they can get to, but you can't get there from the classroom every single day. But thinking about it like that, another way to think of to plan for it, if you have this flexibility, is to involve students in the creation of the virtual fieldwork experiences. And so they're actually thinking about what kind of information do I need to gather at a field site to explain the site elsewhere. And so there are several pages here about how to make VFEs, the role of VFEs in science education, and so on. My colleague, Don Haas, has written a lot of this. And then there's this thing called the VFE catalog. And the catalog has essentially a list of different kinds of sites that you can use in your teaching now. Now, firstly, there's a map. Oops, I didn't mean to zoom in so far. There's an interactive map that has VFEs, as we call them for short, from different parts of the country, and that have been made by teachers who worked with us over the years. Some of these are kind of in a partially finished form, but could be adapted for your purposes, or they could be just an opportunity to kind of see what somebody else did. And so these are from various places around the country, including a couple from the Southwest. And then we have the state-by-state list of VFEs. And these are basically a wide range of really virtual field trips for places, excuse me, around the country created by other people. And some of them are kind of relatively old-fashioned, almost like a slideshow of a place, in which case to use it for education, you'd really need to add some kind of activity to it to give the students something to think about and dive into and to do. On the other hand, some of them are actually quite sophisticated, and there are, as some of you may know, some quite sophisticated VFEs now with all kinds of three-dimensional views of the outcrop and so on that actually go well beyond anything that we've created that require some sort of high-end technology. So anyway, we invite you to look through those for things that might be useful to you. Could be in your area, or maybe a place like the Grand Canyon here is a place that if you're not, I know you happen to be in the region that's not too far away. Most teachers are not. But still you can't get to the Grand Canyon every day, I assume. So you might want to take a look here and see if there are things that are useful for your particular application. And this is an organic list. They are, we have some standards for what goes on here, but we're pretty open to different ways of making them. And if you know of something that's ought to be on this list, please let us know, maybe even something that you created yourself. And so I'll just finish off by saying that we also have a few VFE case examples that are VFEs that we created in-house that we think they're certainly not perfect by any means, but they're kind of what we have in mind for what a VFE could be. So for example, the first two of these, or this first one is a site in Pennsylvania that really looks at kind of modern ecosystems. The second one is a late Cenozoic site, and the third one are both late Cenozoic sites from California, and really get at, and there are different pieces of them. There's a geology piece, a paleontology piece, and more of a tectonics piece. And then there's one actually for Dinosaur Ridge, which is kind of on the old side, but as I think you probably all know, Dinosaur Ridge is in Colorado, not too far from Denver. And so you can get a sense there for some of the variety of techniques that we've used, including things like a gigapan, these very many gigapixel pictures so that you can zoom in on a site. John?
Thanks, Rob.
There.
I'm gonna share my screen again here. Okay, so Rob was just presenting on virtual fieldwork. What I want to do is I'm going to go down here to virtual collections really quick. So a few years ago at PRI, we got into creating 3D scans of fossil specimens from our collections called using a technique called photogrammetry, which basically involves, taking hundreds of pictures of a fossil from all different angles and then using a fancy computer program to stitch the photos together to create a three-dimensional model. And then after that, we started developing 3D models of, some of the rocks and mineral specimens that we've got around the museum as well. I want to highlight, let's see, what should we do? Let's go to, I'll just show one or two examples here. We have over 600 of these 3D models on the website. We'll go to cephalopods. Let's look for an ammonite. And if there's any other kind of fossil, you guys can test me that you want to see, throw it in the chat and I'll see if we can find something. Go to ammonites. The idea behind these virtual collections is that, during a normal classroom, at least at the college level, an instructor might pull out a drawer full of different fossil specimens from all different places and ask students to study the fossils and look for different features or draw pictures of the fossils. This is basically a virtual equivalent of that. We've sort of arranged these web pages like virtual drawers of fossil specimens, and these specimens are some of the best from our behind the scenes research collections, as well as specimens that we have on display in our museum. These are all interactive. This is a little fossil ammonoid from the Pennsylvanian, or sorry, it looks like it's from the Mississippian subperiod of Iowa. And these things are, I'm just zooming in here, I'm moving the specimen around. If you go to Sketchfab, which is where these specimens are hosted, if you don't know what Sketchfab is, it's kind of like the YouTube of 3D models. You can go to the page and you can actually download all these models if you want. You just go to here and click download 3D model, and it'll download the files to your computer, and then you can send these things off and be printed if you want to do that. So you can have replicates of these specimens to do whatever you want with. You can also make these models full screen size. So if you're in a classroom setting, this is handy to show your share these specimens with your students, because they're a lot easier to see on a screen than they are if you're just holding it up in your hands. Let's see, I guess the next trick here is I need to make that smaller. There we go. I'm gonna go back to the collection here. So again, we have over 600 of these fossils. Were there any requests in the chat? You see, Liz?
Burgess Shale.
Yeah, Burgess Shale.
Oh, Burgess Shale is a good one, but we don't have any 3D scans of Burgess Shale. I've been thinking about doing it. We do have a small collection of Burgess Shale in the museum, but we haven't 3D scanned any yet.
What about Utah Cambrian?
Boy, I'll show a little bit of Utah Cambrian later on, but we do not have any 3D scans of Utah Cambrian unless, let's see, are there any other suggestions? I'm going to see real quick if we have any trilobites from Utah. I don't think we do, though. Yeah, I don't think so. But we've got, we do have a bunch of good trilobites from New York. Here's a Dipleura from our fossil collections here in New York. This is one of the larger types of trilobites that you can find in New York State. So again, feel free to explore this on your own. If you go to the top of this page, it beams you over to the Digital Atlas of Ancient Life. This is sort of part of the Earth at Home family of websites. So this is still our logos up here. This is still a PRI website. This is something that we built. I'm going to go back to Earth at Home. I hope I might just do this. Here we go. Yeah, so I'm just right back here in the virtual collections. So next I want to go over to additional resources. I'm going to click on that link, and I just want to highlight a few things. One is the science road trip. I'm going to hand it off to Araya in a minute here. I just want to show the other things on this page. You all are here, so you're familiar with the workshops page. We have detailed overviews of the fossils of the United States that you can jump to by clicking dig in here. We've got quick guides to different earth science topics. You know, what are rocks? You know, how do you classify different kinds of rocks? That sort of thing. Just sort of basic introductions. We have frequently asked questions related to earth science. So, for example, in here we have an FAQ. I'm going to click here to jump down to geology. We have a page, for instance, how did the Grand Canyon form? It's a frequently asked question. So you click on that, and it's got a quick answer at the top. You know, so if you want a short 1-paragraph answer, it's there. If you want a little bit more detail, you can scroll down and kind of find out the story of, you know, how did, you know, and sort of step by step, how did the Grand Canyon form? You know, how did the lowest rocks or the oldest, how did they form? And then, you know, what happened, you know, from the base of the Grand Canyon to the rocks you see at the top? What were those events? And so it sort of just goes through, you know, over 1 billion years of Earth history. So you can explore that on your own if you want. I'm going to jump back here to the resources page. I was just in the FAQs. We also have quick facts that we're developing for each state in the US. I just want to show you what that is, and we'll just use it Arizona as an example. Click on explore. Here we are with Arizona. We're developing all new geologic maps as part of this project. So we're using GIS to make these maps. They're free for you to use basically however you want, as long as they have Creative Commons licensing, so they just need an attribution, but you can use them basically for any educational purpose. This is a GIS map that we created that also includes the topography. So it's got a little bit of relief on it. A lot of the geologic maps that are out there are they're really, really complicated. You know, there's a lot of detail on them. We wanted to make maps where, you know, somebody can just quickly see kind of, you know, where are the Mesozoic aged rocks in Arizona? You know, the Mesozoic is the age of dinosaurs. So if you wanted to find a dinosaur fossil in Arizona, what part of the state would you go to? The state fossil of Arizona is petrified wood. Arizona somehow does not have a state rock yet, at least that I've been able to find. The state mineral is copper. The state gem is turquoise, which is a perfect choice. We've also been developing topographic maps for each state in the country. That, again, same thing. You're free to use these images for basically any non-commercial purpose. And then there's information about the highest point in every single state. Those highest points are also identified on the topographic maps. And then the lowest point. And then we've just found some places that, you know, we think would be fun to visit. We've been to some of these. Some of them we'd like to explore. If you all have recommendations for places that we should add, you know, to places to visit, let us know. We want to highlight both, especially natural history museums, whether they're, you know, really large museums or just small museums. We want to recognize museums and you know, places to go visit. Again, we have two pretty big examples here, Grand Canyon and Petrified Forest, but, you know, smaller places that show neat things are cool to highlight as well. So that was all under Earth Science Quick Facts. I mentioned the geologic time scale. I'll go on there real quick. What we've done is, you know, we've developed a geologic timescale image, but what's fun about this page is we've then gone into each individual time period, you know, and we've highlighted important events in both the fossil record and Earth's history. So you can kind of explore that as well. And then if you want a quick way to find, the geologic maps or the topographic maps, you can go to these pages, and it's just a list, for every state. It's just got pictures of the maps that we've been developing. We're not finished yet. We have all the maps done for the Southeast, South Central, and Southwest United States, and we'll be adding the West soon. We're kind of going clockwise around the country. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back one step, and I want to ask Araya to jump in and talk about the science road trip, which is right up here at the top where it says crawl along with Gilbert. So I'm going to click there. And Araya, do you want to, I can just let me know if you want me to scroll.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the science road trip. The science road trip is a virtual tour of the US featuring the mascot Gilbert D. Snail, who is the little snail mascot you see on your screen right there. He was named after PRI's founder, Gilbert D. Harris. So on this virtual road trip, Gilbert is adventuring across the United States and sharing trivia, facts, destinations, and postcards from each state in the US. And he shares them each week on social media. And so far, Gilbert has visited 4 states out of 50, and he's currently touring around the Southeast. And if you want to scroll down a little bit, John, this is a little bit of background info on Gilbert, in case you want to know more about him. But if you scroll down a little bit further, this page just kind of goes through what the virtual road trip is all about. And if you go down a little bit further, you can follow along with those social media links there. We post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And each week we ask a trivia question for the state that Gilbert visited, and then we post the answers here. And each trivia answer also links to the state page, so you can learn more about the state right from here. And then below that, we also have some postcards from Gilbert for the different places he's visited each week. So we created this road trip to kind of encourage people to learn about the earth science of the place where they live and to follow along each week. And I believe it's a fun resource that teachers could use in the classroom with their students as like a weekly activity to follow along, or just to inspire people to visit these places on their next road trip or vacation to learn more about the earth.
Great, thanks, Araya. So what we're going to do now is go to sort of the main part of what we wanted to talk tonight. We're about this evening. We're going to go over to regional guides. I'm going to click on that landing page first. So what we've done is we've broken up the United States into 8 major regions, the Northeast, Southeast, South Central region, Southwest, and so on. And we've divided each one of these regions into a number of subregions that are defined both based on their geologic history and their modern day topography. So these are what are known as physiographic regions. And so that's what the colors represent on the map. So our progress, we've made some progress so far in this project to highlight the earth science of each different part of the country. So we're in the Here on Earth Regional Guides to Earth Science, part of Earth at Home. So far we've provided a lot of, I think, pretty rich earth science content related to the southeastern US, the south central US, and the southwestern United States. And we still have some work to do. Currently, we're working on developing resources for the western US, as well as Hawaii. And then later in the year, we'll move on to the northern part of the United States. I want to note that this part of Earth at Home was developed it's being supported by a grant that PRI received last year from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is a federal granting agency. So I want to acknowledge their support for helping us develop this part of the Earth at Home project. A lot of the content from the Here on Earth regional guides, part of Earth at Home is derived from a series of books published by the Paleontological Research Institution called the Teacher-Friendly Guides to Earth Science. And that was a project that was led by Rob Ross. And Rob, I was wondering if you just wanted to say a few things about the TFG project?
Sure, I'll make it quick. So I'll just, let's see.
Oh, do I need to, want me to stop sharing, Rob?
Sure, I guess so.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want to take you briefly to our other website, which is, excuse me, priweb.org. So as John mentioned at the beginning, so the organization that we all belong to is called the Paleontological Research Institution. And this is kind of the main site for the organization and the research collections and our public venues. We have a museum and a nature center. In addition, then to Earth at Home, which is what we've been showing you this evening. And so currently there's a part of this site that's called Learn and Teach. And underneath that, of course, one of the main tabs is Earth at Home. And then there are some other links here that mostly take you to like programs and things like that, some of which are local. And then there is a tab called For Educators, and that takes you to a variety of materials, some of which are workshops and things that we do with educators, our newsletter that you can subscribe to, our educator workshops, and so on. So, and sometimes, you know, we do workshops locally, but sometimes at national meetings. And so maybe we'll see some of you there. But we also have these content resources, and that's mostly on Earth at Home. And what's remaining of content on this site is being shifted over. So I'm just going to go to this page called Teacher Friendly Guides to Earth Science. And this shows you the series of basically like PDFs that you can download that are books about each region, one of which is, there it is, the Southwestern US in the bottom left. Now, I should say that the stuff that John and Liz are doing on Earth at Home is so far beyond what's in the PDF. So the PDFs are useful, maybe partially for historical reasons, but you know, they may be handy in some cases. Like we actually print a certain number of these for people that want that, and you can download them and have like a separate PDF from the website, which has a lot of the basic content. But the site that you're looking at right now, Earth at Home, is the new and improved by a long shot, all kinds of maps and images and so on and so forth. But just to let you know that this stuff exists, there are also, I should mention, a couple of so-called teacher-friendly guides to evolution, and also one on climate change. And so if you're interested in those, you know, let us know. But that's different from the content from tonight. So, and like John just mentioned, funding, I should mention these were funded by the National Science Foundation and the Arthur Vining Davis Foundations and others. So, John, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Okay, so let's jump into the Southwestern United States now. So I'm going to click right here. You can also find this pathway just by going to regional guides at the top of the screen. Click Southwestern US. So we've characterized the earth science of the Southwestern United States at sort of several different scales. So some of the content sort of covers the Southwest as a, you know, at the scale of the 4-state region itself. That includes content on the geologic history of the Southwest, its climate, and earth hazards. Again, I mentioned that these different colored regions on the maps correspond to physiographic provinces that are linked by their topography and geologic history. So in the Southwest, these regions include the Great Plains, the Rocky Mountains, the Basin and Range region, and the Colorado Plateau. And so for each one of these subregions, we have detailed information about the subregions, rocks, fossils, topography, energy, and mineral resources. And I'll note that, in some of these pages, the content is a little bit more developed than others. We're always, because this is a website, we can always keep growing it over time. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing in the future is sort of soliciting help from experts who, for instance, might really know a whole lot about, the rocks of the Basin and Range region, and make some of these areas richer with content over time. But these pages do provide some base level information about these different earth science topics. So Liz, I think you were going to highlight a couple of these different pages, but again, I encourage everybody to sort of explore the different content areas here on your own. I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to you, Liz.
Okay. Did you want to post a link to the teacher-friendly guide to climate change just so everybody has it?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. So I'm just going to not go in detail, but just look at a couple of the pages from the Southwest region, which of course has really incredible geology, and go through just some of the features. So let's see. Here we go. Hopefully. Yeah, share. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen now. All right. So this is the fossils of the Colorado Plateau page. So if you start out at Earth Science of the Southwestern United States, as John mentioned, the different physiographic regions, probably the geologically richest one is the Colorado Plateau. So each of these regions have subpages. So fossils is here. Right, so basically the layout of this page, we have a nice header image, title, a little map that shows you which physiographic region you're in. Beneath that, there's a page snapshot. So this just gives you basically one sentence summary of what's on the page. Like, what are you going to find? Below that is sort of a credits box. So it's credits for the original teacher-friendly guide, when the page was last updated, stuff like that. But probably a little bit more of interest is topics covered on the page. So this isn't necessarily exhaustive, but it is kind of a table of contents. And one of the nice things about this is that there are anchor links. So if there's something specific that you want to look at, for instance, Triassic fossils, you can just hit the anchor link and it'll take you down there. And then you can just hit back to go back to the top. So this particular page or this particular region is very rich in terms of its fossil record. This covers the Cambrian or the Grand Canyon, so all the Paleozoic stuff. If we go back to Triassic fossils, of course, Chinle Formation is in this region. Everything from petrified forests, so a lot of vertebrates. One thing I've tried to do when building the pages, I've worked on a lot of the fossil pages, is stuff a lot of images in here. I really like visuals. And as much as possible, these are public domain or Creative Commons. The licensing information is on them. So if you want to use them, and I try to provide links also to the original images. So a lot of vertebrates from the Chinle, plants. So of course, this is petrified forest is known for its petrified wood. But there are also some other plants there. This region is also really known for its Jurassic fossil record as well. So Dinosaur National Monument is kind of on the border of the Colorado Plateau and the Rocky Mountains, but it is on the Colorado Plateau page here. So Dinosaur National Monument's on here, and Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry. This has famous dinosaurs like Allosaurus and Apatosaurus or Brontosaurus. I don't know what the latest is on the naming of that now, but there's a lot of really interesting Jurassic fossils here. Also, there is a ton of Cretaceous. So this is stuff from Utah and New Mexico. So in terms of what else we're doing with these transfer of the teacher-friendly guides to the web, in addition to just, adding a lot of visuals to it, in some cases we've added information. So here, I added a little bit more about the Cedar Mountain Formation, which has its own Cretaceous dinosaur fauna. And then there is a second kind of Cretaceous dinosaur fauna from Fruitland-Kirtland Formation, and I think Kaiparowitz Formation as well. So there's a ton of dinosaur stuff on this page, but that's not all, because there is also a lot of Cenozoic. So post-dinosaurs, there's some Paleocene stuff. This is kind of interesting because it's a little unusual to have these Paleocene mammals. And then Green River and Uintah Formation are also on this page. So probably Eocene Green River Formation, probably most of the famous stuff you see is the stuff from Wyoming. So big palm leaves, coolgars, I don't know, rays. But there are really cool things from Utah and Colorado too. So a lot of insects are known from the Green River Formation in this area, and also a lot of plant fossils. So Colorado Plateau just goes on and on and on, but there's a ton of great stuff. And, I was really excited to do the page. So just an example of another page. This is a timely topic, climate of the Southwestern United States. Again, kind of the same thing. You start with a snapshot, what's on the page. Again, there are these anchor links to take you to different aspects of the page. So the climate page for the Southwest covers the whole Southwest. It's not just one physiographic region. And each climate page of the website is kind of set up the same way. So it starts with the present, it then discusses the past, and then it kind of talks about what is the future. So it basically goes through temperature, precipitation. There are some pretty pictures there. And I'll skip ahead. Past, you can explore on your own. Future might be a little bit more of what people are interested in now. So this just kind of gives a snapshot of where things are now. The entire United States is very developed. It's very industrialized. We produce a lot of greenhouse gases. So this is all gone over here, but there's also, especially in the Southwest region, a lot of development of renewables. So things like solar and stuff like that. So there are some trends and predictions about what's going to happen in the future, and a little bit of what we're already seeing now in terms of climate change. So there's a little bit on the bark beetles, and importantly for your region right now, water supply. So of course it's been very dry lately. Some of the major reservoirs that provide water as well as provide power for the region are very low right now. So this is kind of a critical situation in the Southwest, and there are these nice satellite image pairs taken from satellite imagery from NASA that illustrate this really well. So that's fossils and climate. It gives you a little taste maybe about what you'll see on these pages, but we'll have a little more time to discuss if you have questions at the end. So I think I'm going to stop sharing. Go.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So what we wanted to do now is just, maybe do a little bit of show and tell here. So I think myself and Liz and Rob each, picked something on Earth at Home that we wanted to highlight. So we'll do that quickly, just show you something that we thought was fun or just wanted to share for whatever reason. And then we'd like those of you who want to share something to do so as well. What's a page, or this evening, have you found something on the website that you thought was cool that you just like to share with the group? And then we can sort of just move it into a little bit more general discussion about what's is there something on the website that you found that you think might be useful to you, or is there something you'd like to see us add? We'd love that feedback. But let's begin with just a little bit of show and tell. I think I'll take the lead here. I'm gonna share my screen again, and then I'll ask Rob and then Liz to jump in and show something that's of interest. So let me get this going here. So let's see, I'm gonna see if I can navigate around here. I'm gonna go to Earth Science of the United States. And I'm interested in the basin and range of Utah. So it's this tan colored region. We'll go down here to basin and range, and let's go to fossils. So one of my earlier jobs was as a scientist at the University of Kansas. I was in a postdoctoral position at the University of Kansas, and my research was focused on Cambrian fossils from Utah that are basically the same age as the Burgess Shale. So somebody earlier had mentioned that they wanted to see Burgess Shale fossils in the virtual collection. As it turns out, so if you don't know about the Burgess Shale, it's really cool for two reasons. One is that it's sort of, if you could ever wish for a fossil deposit to be preserved at a certain point in time, it would be the age of the Burgess Shale during the Cambrian period, because this is the time interval in life's history when a lot of the major animal groups were evolving and diversifying. So it sort of captures that event in time. The Burgess Shale is also cool because it preserves the soft parts of animals. Normally, when we think about fossils, we think about hard parts like shells and bones. Soft, squishy stuff hardly ever gets preserved, except it does at some, in some rare fossil deposits, including the Burgess Shale, but also similarly aged material that's been discovered in Utah. And one of the cool fossils that my colleagues and I worked on from the fossil record of Utah are fossil jellyfish. So jellyfish are sort of like the last things you'd ever expect to be fossilized because, of course, they're so delicate. But we didn't find these fossils. They were in a private collection that was that eventually found its way to the University of Kansas. But they're just totally remarkable. This little jellyfish, you can see the bell of the jellyfish right here and its little tentacles hanging down, just, totally cool. This thing is about the size of a dime. So it was really, really small, but, it's not a surprise to us that jellyfish were around in the Cambrian, but we really didn't have very much good fossil evidence of there being jellyfish in the Cambrian, just because, again, they're soft and squishy and not likely to be preserved. So, there's some other cool soft-bodied fossils that have been found in Utah that are also highlighted on this page. So feel free to explore that. This is a anomalocaridid type of ancient animal called a radiodont that was found in Utah, and these were some of the big predators, kind of like the T-Rex of the Cambrian period. Some of these things got to be between 3 and 6 feet long, so pretty cool. So I'll stop. That's just one neat thing I wanted to share with some of these Cambrian fossils from Utah that we have on Earth at Home. So I'm going to stop sharing. Rob, do you want to jump in and share something?
Sure. So this is going to be a little different. So I'm going to share with you a story about some of the content that's on Earth at Home. So let's see here. Okay, so so you might wonder, I don't know if you wonder, how did the people on this call write all of this content? And the fact is that we didn't. John and Liz have made tremendous contributions, but a lot of the work that was done on the content for these guides was done over the course of many years by dozens of colleagues and science educators. And so when we were doing this was for the original teacher-friendly guide that is now the Southwest part of Earth at Home. One of the chapters that we needed to have written was on the topography of the Southwest, which of course is world-renowned. And we thought, who would be the best person to do this that we know? We can't just ask any random person, or maybe you know, there are lots of people I'm sure that could do it, but we thought, like, who do we know who would be competent enough to cover this important topic? And at Cornell University, which is, we're affiliated with Cornell, in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, there are several geologists who have worked there who were among the founders and early developers of plate tectonics. And one of them is Brian Isaacs. This little picture and this little thing here is just one representative snapshot of one of the many awards that he has won. And, you know, here it says, no one has made a greater contribution to our understanding of the subduction of ocean lithosphere than Brian Isaacs. And that was just, you know, one thing that he had done toward plate tectonics. Anyway, okay, what's that got to do with the Southwest? Well, as you know, the topography of the Southwest is the way it is, in part because the complicated tectonics associated with the Basin and Range and the Rocky Mountains, which are still an area of very active research. And he was and so we asked him if he would take this on, and he said he would. And he was so concerned about doing it right. And he spent months poring over like the latest literature, worried about getting the details just right. So, you know, this has been a few years now. So probably if I gave it back to him, if he could, he would probably have things that he wanted to do with it. But anyway, I just wanted so I don't have anything specific to show you. There are lots of beautiful pictures here and diagrams like these about the tectonics of the region. But just know that the content was a labor of love of a famous geologist who worked on plate tectonics for decades. So I'll stop with that. So there are a lot of interesting personalities and stories behind the content on Earth at Home.
That's great. Thanks, Rob. Liz, did you want to share anything?
Sure, I can share something. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Then we'll ask if anybody else in the audience wants to share something.
So one other set of pages that I've worked on developing is, or, you know, porting the content over and adding images and all this stuff is energy. And so for a while, when I was in middle school, I actually lived in the Raton Basin. So it's been interesting to go back to the Southwest and put some images on there. And one of the things I like about working on energy is there's a lot of interesting historical images, especially pertaining to coal, sometimes pertaining to oil as well. So in this page, which is on energy in the Great Plains, I found some images from Starkville, Colorado, which was really close to where I used to live. These historical coal mining images, guys picking coal, and also this other guy with, I guess, donkeys taking coal out of the coal mine. And a little bit about the Ludlow Massacre, which was part of the Colorado Coalfield Wars, where the coal miners were basically at war with the coal companies. And of course, the monument to the massacre is there, and there's a little bit about the story, or about the story of the Coalfield War and the massacre on the page as well. So it's got this interesting, I guess, historical element, as well as maybe a little bit of a nostalgic element for me. So that's my share.
Great, thanks, Liz. So now we want to, you know, for a little while, turn it over to all of you. Have you found anything, you know, when you're digging around on Earth at Home that you thought was cool or interesting, or, you know, anything that you'd like to share for whatever reason?
Should we give people a couple minutes to look
Yeah,
around?
if you want to mull, or we could do that, or if anybody's ready to jump in. And
I would like to share a story about a hiking experience I had. It was not in a scientific context, but I like to try to understand the world that I'm living in. I hiked to a peak called Lamus Peak, Lamus, just outside of Wendover, Utah. And the site was an old copper mining site. And I found some loose rocks in the just stuff at the base of the mine that were bright blue-green. And I figured I had probably found some traces of copper.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, no, copper mining is super big in Utah, so that's awesome.
Hey, I'm just curious. I put my favorite was the earth hazards part for the Southwest. That just, and it links to some of our science standards pretty strongly. But I'm curious if in the 3D model section, that virtual collection, it's missing minerals, which you know is so rich here,
Yeah.
especially in Arizona. Is that coming? I hope.
Yeah, it's something we want to do. So, you know, we're a fossil museum, so we have a huge, you know, we have 7 million fossil specimens, right? But we've got like a little, you know, like just a few cabinets of rocks and minerals, and that was sort of at the tail end of one of these projects. We definitely want to add more 3D scans of rocks and mineral specimens.
Well, just to note, we have the newly opened Alfie Norville Mineral and Gem Museum here in Tucson that's affiliated with the University of Arizona. And of course,
Yeah.
they have a massive mineral collection. So I'm sure we could find some collaborators to help with that.
That would be awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
that
we'd that'd be
that's such a
fantastic.
great
Yeah.
potential partnership. Thank you.
Yeah, no, let's stay in touch about that because we'd love to add, you know, we'd love to add more rocks and minerals. We know we're light on them. We're really proud of the fossil collection, and it was really important, especially during, you know, during COVID. A lot of, at least at the college level, a lot of paleontology instructors, you know, couldn't share real fossils with their students, so you know they used the fossil collections, you know, sort of. They found to be, you know, useful for teaching their classes online. But yeah, we definitely want more rocks and minerals
Perfect.
added.
Yeah. And it's really amazing. Like I have been sharing stuff out. It's really great. And we are excited to see it. So many great resources, and certainly we'll share more stuff as we find it. But it's really
awesome.
great. Thank you so much for all the work
Oh,
you
no.
put in.
Thank you. Jennifer N., I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to give you guys some kudos to how your site is laid out. It's very easily navigatable, which for teachers is really awesome because a lot of times we just don't have time to be searching through websites for information. So I really loved just how easy everything is laid out and very organized. As far as New Mexico goes, I'd like to encourage you not to I was looking at like the maps, the geologic maps, and Albuquerque is marked, but there's nothing marked in southern New Mexico, which is where the majority of the other half of the people in New Mexico tend to live. So just New Mexico Tech in Socorro would be a phenomenal resource.
Okay.
I might be able to have some contacts, but I'm not sure if they're still there because we do take field trips up there. But they also have a really extensive mineral museum for New Mexico. And there are geology school here in the state, but just kind of some encouragement because teachers here in the southern half of the state, it's not very exciting geologically. But we do need resources when they tell us that things we do in our classroom have to connect to our local areas.
That's great. Thank you for that feedback.
But I loved everything. I wish I had this when I was teaching geology a couple of years ago for New Mexico. My kids would have loved the maps a lot better than what I was trying to give them.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And thanks also for the feedback about the organization. You know, we spend a lot of time thinking about the organization, but we're so close to it that, you know, we don't always know if it, you know, it might make sense to us, but we like to know that the sort of flow works for other people as well. So that's also really welcome feedback. Does anybody else want to add anything?
There's a couple of things in the chat.
Okay, let's see.
GIS maps, that's good to know. Been busy with that, John.
If we do know of additional resources in our area, who should we send those to?
So you can send them to me, would be great. Actually, what you can do, so one of the things that I didn't mention is, I'm going to just share my screen super quick here, just to show one feature. Let's see, let's go here. At the bottom of every single Earth at Home page, there is a contact us email. And that goes to, that email is just, I think it's earthathome@priweb.org or something like that. But you can click on that link and that will send an email to both myself and Liz. And so that's a great way to make sure that you're finding both of us. You can also find us on PRI's main website, which is priweb.org. So that would be, please just send an email. I think that would be the easiest thing. Something else that I should have said at the beginning was, we encourage you all to subscribe to our email list. Just type your email address in at the bottom of in the subscribe box. We promise we will not spam you. What we use this email list for is when we've added major new blocks of content to the Earth at Home website, we'll just send out an email, that'll say, hey, we've added, Earth Science resources about the Western US or the Midwestern US, that sort of thing. And, you'll get an email from us like once every, 6 to 8 weeks or something. So we're not going to spam you. We'll just let you know when there's cool new stuff on the website that we want to share. Let's see, what else did I miss in the chat here? Okay, Liz, you found the punctuated equilibrium page.
And I know Don, I think he said that you all are presenting, right, at the NAAWE conference that'll be in Tucson this year. Is that correct? Virtually or something?
That could be. I don't know if we are among them, but we do present at NAAWE. So
yeah, and I put it into the chat just because I think lots of people don't know they're going to be here in Tucson. So for everybody on this call anyway from this area, it's pretty close and it's a great conference.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Let's see here. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Can either be, stuff you found about, that you wanted to share about Earth at Home, or just any general comments or feedback, anything you'd like to see us add, anything at all?
Or questions?
Another thought. Oh, please, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. This is Katie here, Catherine Denzer. I just wanted to say I'm really excited about this site. And when you talked about the coal mining in Leadville, it made me look up Centralia, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from, which I saw that there wasn't much Pennsylvania stuff yet. So I'll be excited even as that expands. And if you guys don't know about Centralia, that's where one of the mine fires was, where there used to be a town and now there's not. So I was excited to see what you guys had about that. But I'm really excited about all of this stuff for the Southwest. And I'm an admin for one of our homeschool groups. So I'm excited to kind of go back to that group and let everyone know about this and share the resource with them too. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Each of you probably has, and some of you have already just shared some stories about a cool resource in your area that it might be useful for us to know about. But you probably know about places that you like to talk to your students about because they're so interesting or they're so multidimensional. So if there are things like that that you think would be a good addition, please let us know. You don't have to do any work about it, but just say, hey, there's this place that I think it would be great to highlight this because a lot of people would love to use that in their teaching in this area.
Yeah, and piggybacking on what Rob just said, if there is a place like that that you go to and you think is cool for whatever reason, and you have some photos of that place, we'd love to, if you'd be willing to share those photos with us and we could put them on the website. We'd give them Creative Commons licensing. That would be the only caveat, just so other people could use them for educational purposes. We'd of course credit you. If you send us the photos, we can kind of develop the written content and sort of provide little vignettes on some of these places that you think are neat and integrate that. And we'll do that work, but having the photos sometimes is the biggest challenge. Sometimes they're just, they're amazing places that are kind of in the middle of nowhere, and we just can't find photos online that are free to use. There may be photos, but they'll have copyright restrictions, and we don't put images on the website that have copyright restrictions for the most part, because we want to just keep it as open and free as possible.
John and Rob, there's a question in the chat about resources on how teachers can help their students interact with the content. I don't know if there's anything online right now related to that.
Yeah, Rob, do you want to talk a little bit about, at least for the climate stuff, kind of what the plan is for moving some of the teacher PD stuff over?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really great question. And that honestly, that part of what we've done over the years is kind of underdeveloped. Our primary focus along those lines has been through virtual fieldwork experiences, but of course doesn't apply to everything. So I guess the short answer is that we don't necessarily have a lot of curricula that are well developed for kind of everything you might do with these materials. We would appreciate your suggestions or letting us know your needs. For our teacher-friendly guide to climate change, we actually have been developing a lot of materials along the lines, and it's a set of activities and in some cases videos on YouTube that we hope will be useful for teachers, but are things you could also share with your students. They're around 10 minutes long on major concepts and things like CO2 as a greenhouse gas and soil temperature profiles and what that has to do with geothermal heating and that kind of stuff. So we have a team of people here that work on those kinds of topics specifically. So you can find those currently on priweb.org, and those will migrate over to Earth at Home in the coming months. So that isn't a perfect answer to your question, but it's kind of where we are right now.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Someone mentioned pictures of white sands in the chat.
Yeah, if you have some pictures that you're happy with that you'd like to share, we'd love to take a look at them. Yeah, this is one of the things sometimes, so a lot of the images that we've included come from sites like Wikimedia Commons, because they have Creative Commons licensing. Flickr is it sort of depends. Some of the pictures people put up, they retain, full copyrights, but sometimes they release images with Creative Commons licensing. And if it's the latter, we'll use them. But, if any of you have been to places that are, geologically charismatic, and you'd like us to consider sharing those images on Earth at Home, please just get in touch via that email link, and we'd be happy to chat about that. We'd like to sort of build this to be sort of in part a community constructed resource, that sort of is, curated by our institution, but, when folks have pieces they'd like to offer, we want to try to work something out.
So I'm just going to put in the link for the link for the recording of this session. I know it's not too likely that you are necessarily going to want to go back and listen to this whole thing, but if there was something that you missed, or you think somebody else might get something from some piece of it, then that will be available. I should also mention that the agenda will continue to live on. So there's some links in the agenda if you need to go back and find something. Of course, you're also welcome to just email us if you need something and you can't find it. And we also have the world's shortest exit survey. I know we're not ending quite yet, but I tend to forget to mention this unless I say it a little bit early. So I'm just gonna It's actually in the agenda, but it's probably easier if I just put it in the chat.
Yeah, and I'll say too that this video presentation will also host it on the Earth at Home /workshops page. So you can find that under additional resources. So if you want to come back to Earth at Home later and look for this video, we'll also embed it there. And it includes, we're doing this for we're doing one of these workshops for each region of the US. So if you want to see kind of what the workshops look like from other regions, feel free to take a look at those as well.
I have another content question. I'm
Yeah.
curious if you're gonna, it seems like it's missing a focus on mining. Is that going to be included at some point, or do you want to include it? It's so huge here in the Southwest that it just seems to be lacking that. And I'm curious if you plan to include it or not.
There's some content related to mining under mineral resources, but it's probably sort of, in that case, the content may be a little bit thin. So these are areas where, you know, sometimes the content is really, the original content was really, really extensive. In other cases, you know, it just sort of, it did not cover everything. And so, you know, if there are areas that you think should, you know, that really should receive more attention, please do let us know. As I said at the beginning, one of the ways we want to grow the Earth at Home content in the future is to sort of partner with folks who do have subject area expertise. So, you know, we could find somebody and say, well, hey, you know, our content on mining in the Southwest is kind of thin. You know, if a person knows a lot about that topic, they could help develop, you know, in partnership, they could potentially help develop some of that content. And then we'd be happy to add it to the Earth at Home website. That's a sort of model that we foresee moving forward.
Yeah, divide and conquer. It sounds smart. And also, obviously, people here in, you know, like doing place-based work a lot of times. No, I mean, I was asking specifically because we have Dr. Isabel Barton is doing videos specific to minerals and energy and renewables and on. And I just wanted to know if I should connect you with her or not. So that's kind of part of it. And then we have some other resources we know about that I can share with you.
That'd be great. Yeah, no, we'd love to hear about all of it. I think that's great. And if, you know, if there are existing videos and what have you, those are easy to embed and share, you know, via Earth at Home. So that'd be great.
Yeah, and I think she'll be excited to see that she can share more broadly. You know, I mean, it's a lot of work to do those things too. So the more it can get out to other people, the better.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things we want to do with Earth at Home, right? Because a lot of folks, you know, there are folks all over the place who know a whole lot about, you know, the place where they live, and they've, in some cases, have already developed little websites on their own, and they have a lot of their own photos, but we'd like to sort of grow Earth at Home in this way where we can kind of take that expertise and add it into sort of this bigger, broader project so that it has, you know, the opportunity to maybe better reach, you know, a wider audience. So that's something we're absolutely interested in.
And I also just want to really commend you on the Creative Commons, like sticking with that. We also at Stamazing really like don't highlight anything that's not Creative Commons and open access. So I truly appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. It's super important to us too. All right. Any other final thoughts here? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and it's been great.
Yeah, we appreciate it's been I'm sure it's the end of the day where you are, and it's been a long school year, and we appreciate everything that you do. and your
Thank
time.
you all. It's pretty late for you.
It's
late
time. Yeah, it's dinner time.
Yeah. And definitely say hi to Don for me. I was hoping I'd see him tonight and get to say hi. But I've been to the museum, and it is really amazing. So I worked on the energy literacy project at the
I
Department of
remember
Energy.
when you came. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
So Rob, I think you can stop recording.
Right.
And we can stop the YouTube feed.